What's up, my friends? Welcome to Chaos Live, my fun little live stream where I get to hang out with all of you awesome individuals. Answer the questions the best that I can, army related or non-army related, just no politics. I definitely not a political fan. But we'll hang out, answer some questions. If you have some questions, make sure to leave those in the chat, and I'll do my best to see if I can't answer it or whatnot and all that stuff. So what's happening to all you awesome notification platoon individuals? We got Want to Be First. That's pretty clever. Screen name, considering you were first in chat. We got Miles, we got Lovable Xena, we got Danny, Easton, Aaron, Steven Edwards, Doug the Eliminator, Crazy Monkey, Eviana. I think I got that right? Mr. Hernandez, we got Shane, we got Garrett, Cody, John McJunkin. What else did I miss? Christopher Cannon, Danny Roberts, I don't remember if I said you already, Evan, Nathan, it's most of the people, John, most of the people I think I got you. So what's happening? Let's get right into it. Let's talk about what you guys got for questions. But first, if you're not aware, as suggested, I believe in the last live stream we did, you guys wanted talked about, or someone had asked me about a giveaway. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a try. So it's already going on right now on my Instagram. So if you search for Christopher Chaos on Instagram or ThatChrisChaos, it's at ThatChrisChaos is the official handle. You'll see a post that I did a couple days ago. That's the official entry kind of thing. You leave a comment about why you watch my channel, and then on the 8th, I think I said, is when I'll actually announce the winner during the next Chaos live stream, and that person will receive a little mystery box of some kind of random army related type of items and stuff, and probably a Chaos sticker will probably be there as well. But if you're not aware of that, hit up my Instagram, make sure you're following me, make sure you leave a good comment on there, and maybe you'll win. I don't know. So let's get into the questions. We've got people saying what's up and all that good stuff. So awesome. 55 Bravo here. Good, awesome deal. Opening music is fire as always. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Sorry I couldn't join the last live stream. Not a big deal. What rank do you get if you're an Eagle Scout? You potentially could be able to come into the Army as a private first class. That is not guaranteed, but possible. What ASVAB subjects covers math sections of the test, so I only know what I got to pay more attention for the math sections. I don't know what specifically pull from the math, but there is still, even if you say you tried to study really hard to be able to do really great on math, but then you do bad on English or certain other parts, then you might not get that AFQT score that you need to qualify for the United States Army. And you might not be able to, grab other certain items that need to accumulate to make that score you need for the MOS you want. So you could look on the GoArmy.com website, and they have, I think, a breakdown of how different kind of subjects are calculated, I believe. But otherwise, it's best just to try to do as best you can. Otherwise, you could run into the possibility of screwing yourself and not scoring high enough for the AFQ. The music sounds like WWE type stuff. It's a good rock song. It comes from Epidemic Sounds. If you create YouTube videos, I'll leave down in the description. I have an affiliate link to Epidemic Sounds if you need good music for your YouTube channel. Baba Booey? Is that what that says? Welcome, Chris. Welcome on. Dark Fate, a good movie? I have no idea what that movie is. Not sure. What's happening? Was it Chrisman? How's it going? Ammo Supply was a badass MOS. Yeah, it's a good MOS. I've known quite a few people that did that actual MOS, and has 88 mic. 88 mics pretty much do it. So. There we go. Well, there's reading a question, and then it jumped, I guess, ahead a little bit. Hey Chris, what age do you think someone should join the military? It's easier if you go in at a younger age. Go in at 18. probably a good age to kind of go in that, but depends on when you're ready. There was, I think I jumped really far in the thing. Okay, so I'm pretty far behind on the chat, so we'll have to skip ahead a little bit. Is the ACFT the new requirement to graduate basic training? It is, and I talked about that in a video, as well as AIT. So you have to pass the ACFT in basic training, but it's not required of the unit until October of 2020, next year. Awesome intro. Notification squad will notify soon. Dear Chris, what is the craziest thing you saw in the Army? What the craziest thing would be? I remember I don't know if this is the craziest thing, but for whatever reason, this was the first thing that just popped in my head. I remember I was going over to the, there used to be a place on base where you would go to get stickers for your car for the gate. When you go through the gate, you had to have a sticker usually. They did away with that eventually and stuff like that. And I remember when I was getting out of the Army, I still had that sticker on my car though. Even though they weren't really used anymore, I still had to turn that sticker in. And I was going to turn that sticker in, and there was these two guys, I think they were getting ready to get kicked out of the Army or something like that. And, or at least one of them definitely was, most likely, I think. But I think they were chaptering them out, and they had to clear that little building and stuff like that. And they were fighting in the back of this vehicle. There was like these two staff sergeants in the front seat, and these two privates, E-nothings, I think, that probably were getting kicked out of the Army, got busted down. And they were legitimately fist fighting in the back seat of the car, and this guy had to like just stop in the middle of the parking lot. He dragged them out of the vehicle to stop them from fighting. So that's crazy. Hey Chris, does a couple get to have a full military wedding ceremony with uniformed personnel? That's up to them. There's no special thing that like you can go through like a military funeral, how that works. It's not in the same kind of fashion. So that's really just based on how you want to kind of do that. And it is a thing that you can do. Yeah, you can choose to get married in uniform and have all your buddies and everybody in uniform and all that stuff. Music's too loud. Did on this one, on the back song, bring it down a little bit. That seem like it makes it better? Give a head in the chat a little bit. I can see, and then I'll come back a little ways. Right, how's the music now? Now that I dropped it down a little bit in the background, that seemed a little bit better. There is a bit of a delay, so that's always the hard part. Is that about like a 20-second delay in the live stream compared to what you guys are seeing. That always kind of factors in a little bit, that it takes about 20 seconds for everything to kind of catch up for you guys. So like even right now, I still don't see anybody just yet saying whether the music's good or not. That always makes it kind of a pain. Anybody? I'll come back to it. Read a question back here. Are there different regulations for officers having tattoos compared to enlisted personnel? No, it's the same exact tattoo policy regardless if you're an officer, if you're a senior NCO, private, it doesn't matter. Nothing on your hands, nothing on your neck or your head, and nothing racist, sexist, or in some way that could be deemed offensive. Okay. Can't hear the music, Chris? Can't hear anymore, or did I bring it down too low? I have a little bit of ambience in the back. Try right up there. Let me know how that is. Let me come back to some more questions. Chris, when I enlisted in 1982, ribbons were not authorized to wear on the dress green shirt. Were they authorized to wear on the Class A shirt when you served? So you're talking about like in the Class Bs when you're just wearing the shirt, not the jacket? I can't remember. I think so. I think you still wear the ribbons. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember for sure if on the Class B's version where you don't have the jacket, you just have the undershirt, and that was sometimes done in the summertime. You know, Chris, that's how you say my name. You can call me Evie if you like, if you want. See, that just makes it a lot more easier, Evie. I think I asked you that during that gaming live stream, and you said that wasn't the proper way, or something like that. And that's what I've always been calling you, is Evie, just because it made it easier. Let's see. How about music now? Music is good now. Perfect. Okay. All right. Let me come backwards. I'm going to come backwards in the questions a little bit. What's your opinion on 13 Bravo? That's what I think I want to join as. I'm a senior. I don't even know what a 13 Bravo is off the top of my head. Some artillery probably. I don't know, but I don't really have an opinion. Are there different regular? Oh, I already read that one. Can you bring a dog to basic training? No, and you can't bring any pets. Bring your vehicle. Bring what's on the packing list. Basic training. Hey Chris, my school offers the ASVAB to students in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. What grade would you recommend taking it? Maybe, well, so your ASVAB score is only good for 2 years, I believe. So 10th might be a little early to take it, especially like if you do really well and you want to try to join because it's going to expire, I think. So I would recommend maybe, it depends on how soon you want to go in the Army. Are you going to want to go in the Army immediately after high school, or are you going to want to wait a little bit before you go into the Army? That kind of factors into it a little bit. Maybe either 11th or 12th would probably be a good idea. 11th if you're probably planning on immediately going into the Army afterwards. 12th if you're not, maybe. You can still even retake it. I think you can still have, like, say even if you take it as a senior, right? As a senior in high school, take the ASVAB, you don't do as well as you hope to get the MOS you want. You can always still retake it, I believe, 30 days later. It's not until after like your third attempt or something like that. Then you're gonna have to wait like a year before you can retake it again. So you still have options to retake it even if you don't do very well on that first attempt, or even that second attempt, I guess you could say. So, is the VA really as horrible as everyone says it is? Everybody has different experiences, I think. I have not really had too many horrible experiences to say the VA is really bad in general, but that really varies. I mean, it's just like saying, the hospital in town is horrible, right? Everybody's gonna have their own experiences. Some people are gonna have a positive experience at that hospital, or have a negative experience, and that's no different, I think, with the VA, where sometimes, yes, it does take a long time sometimes to get appointments, and I don't know if that's just because, especially like with the VA here in Colorado Springs, because there's a lot of veterans and everybody in that area that they're just overwhelmed sometimes, or what the deal is. But in general, I don't know. I think it just is mixed. It depends on who you talk to. Like for me, the only issues I've ever had with the VA was maybe sometimes it took a long time to get an appointment, where it took like a couple months, something like that. Otherwise, I haven't really had any really bad problems. Or if I had my concealed carry permit, can I have my weapon on me at AIT while not on post? No, because you're not going to be able to even have your personal own weapon at AIT. You're just going to keep it off post because you have someone who lives in that area or something like that. But even then, it's still pretty limited as far as how often you can even go off post, even in AIT. You're still really regulated. Basic training, you're definitely pretty much on lockdown. AIT, the longer ones, sometimes you get a little bit more freedom, but the shorter AITs, you have a little bit less freedom, and you may only have a few opportunities to be able to go off base here and there, and it's only for a few hours, maybe the day, maybe sometimes the whole weekend. It really just depends. But I would say no, most likely not. But I mean, once you get to your regular unit, if that you still have to go by that state law, but you can't carry on base as a concealed carry, even if you have a concealed carry weapon or permit. Is it possible to pick where you go to basic? No, that's pretty much, they're going to look at a list as far as upcoming dates, as far as when you're trying to go, and then the AIT you have to go to, because they're going to try to also line that up as well. So if your next AIT class, say, is starting in August, then they need to try to get you into basic training around the time frame when you're going to graduate and be able to go into AIT. Because if you have a situation where they send you to basic training, let's say in January, but your AIT classes isn't starting until August, what the heck are they going to do with you for the several months in between basic training and AIT? So they're trying to find a basic training location that has open slots for you to go to fall in on that basic training, but also lines up with the graduation date for the next AIT class to be able to start. So there's a lot of things you have to kind of figure in there. You can't really pick where you want to go pretty much based on that. They're kind of staggered on purpose. Not all the basic training sites are usually starting at the same time. They're staggered to be able to accommodate that kind of a situation, to be able to get people into their AITs and into the right timing of everything. What are the pros and cons for staying in the Army? Pros and cons for getting out of the Army? I'm sure that would take a long explanation. I have a video, not necessarily exactly specifically pros and cons of staying in or getting out, but I do have a video that talks about 5 reasons why you might stay in the Army and 5 reasons why you might get out of the Army. And that's kind of along the same lines as far as the pros and cons as to why you should get out of the Army or why you should not get out of the Army, those kind of things. A little bit, sort of. But I don't have really a dedicated video to that. I'm sure that'd be a long explanation. Short version, pros to getting out: usually you get better pay as a civilian doing the same job or doing something else. You have a lot more freedom for pros getting out of the Army. You're not quite as restricted. Grow facial hair if you want. The pros for staying in the Army: retirement benefits. Having that background sometimes is really helpful for getting higher paying jobs when you get out as a retired individual. Cons for staying in the Army: well, possibly getting deployed and getting killed in action. If you deploy to a combat zone. Cons: sometimes you might lose your mind a little bit. As it wears on you being in the Army. And then cons to getting out: well, you miss out on some of those benefits for retirement stuff. I don't know, probably quite a few things. Well, I know I wasn't here long, but I got to go to school tomorrow. We'll have a good one. Great time at school. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt Ward, and Tim Swartz. Has been a huge inspiration to me. I'm trying to get into the Army, and all of y'all's videos has helped me so much, and for me to pursue my dreams in the Army. Well, awesome, Kevin. Good luck to you. Hopefully you accomplish your goals and your dreams and all that awesome fun stuff. For AIT or jump school around Christmas time, will you pause training and go home for Christmas or stay there? Yeah, usually Christmas is the only holiday that they usually break for sending people home. Any other holiday, whether it be Thanksgiving, New Year's, Easter, any of that stuff, they don't give a crap about. But Christmas is the only holiday they usually stop training, send people home for a week or a few days or whatever it ends up being, and then come back and continue training. So if you're in basic training, you're in AIT, then you're usually gonna have a break during that time frame. They typically don't have specialty schools like airborne, air assault, any of those things usually happening during Christmas time frame. They usually try to avoid the scheduling during that time frame, but they do sometimes have basic training at AIT during that time frame. They just try to usually send those people home. What exactly is OSIT and how does it work? OSIT is one station unit training, and it is essentially the fundamentals of basic training that everybody goes through, but combined with AIT. So certain MOSs like 11 Bravos, your MPs, your engineers, a lot of those people go through OSIT. So instead of them doing basic training for 10 weeks and then moving on to either another location or maybe that same location, do AIT for X amount of weeks, they do it all together, and it's just all one. And they're also all of the people at that OSIT. So let's say you're going for let's say a MP. Well, all of those people you're there with are also there for that same MOS. Where when you go to basic training, it's a combination of different MOSs, and then you all are going to go and split off and go your separate ways once basic training is done. Some of you will stay there if your AIT is at the same location as basic training. Other individuals will go off to wherever their basic training is held at. So that's kind of the down and dirty as far as the difference. Because you said something about 18 X-ray in one video, and I'm wondering what happened if I failed. That'd be pretty bad, seeing that my dad wants me in the Army into Special Forces. So what else can I do? Yeah, so typically if you fail, say you go into the Army as 18 X-ray, which is the option to basically try to become Special Forces immediately into the Army, right? You're immediately trying to go into the Army and direct path Special Forces, 18 X-ray option. You're going to go through SFAS, the selection course for Special Forces, and if you fail that, or even just don't get selected, because you can pass SFAS but not get selected if you weren't in that certain top percentage tier that they're looking for, then they typically are going to put you in needs of the Army, which means they're going to put you in an MOS that they just need people in, some MOS that's short on. A lot of times, that's 11 Bravo. Not always, but the majority of people I've known that have failed 18 X-ray end up becoming 11 Bravos. Some from people that I have talked to that happened to be in this same situation is what they usually recommend is that you go into the Army into an MOS that you want, an MOS that you're interested in. Let's say it's MP. Let's just, as an example, right? You come into the Army, you go through the schooling to be an MP, boom, now you're an MP, right? Something you want to do, right? And then while you're an MP, you build a little bit of knowledge about the Army, a little bit about tactics and a lot of different things or whatever. And then you put in to go to SFAS. It's usually a pretty guaranteed kind of a thing. It's a lot easier to actually go to SFAS than it is to like try to request to go like Ranger or something else. And then you're gonna go through the schooling. So they're gonna send you that schooling, you go through the SFAS, and if you fail that time, well then you just get to go back to being an MP, right? You get to go back to something you enjoy, compared to being just thrown into something that you may not enjoy. But if you pass, then you move on and go on to the Q course and become part of the Special Forces. So that's usually one of the big recommendations I always hear from people that have done the 18 X-ray option, is to go that route. What's happening, Shane? How's it going? If you were back in high school and decided you want to join the military, what branch would you join first, second, third, fourth, and fifth? Wow, all of them breaking down. Originally, like when I was in high school, I wanted to join the Air Force because it just seemed easier, I guess. I mean, not to say that it's completely easy, but from everything I always heard, it just always seemed really a lot easier than Army and Marine. Yeah. So probably Air Force, like especially like knowing what I know now, like probably Air Force, then maybe Navy, maybe, and then maybe Army, then Marines, and then I guess Coast Guard. I guess that'd be in that order, I guess, kind of a thing. Does it frag out the holiest of hand grenades in the house? What's happening, Holly hand grenade? How's it going? That was a good little intro, by the way. I like it. Start a YouTube channel, and that's how you should like start off like the intro to your video with frag out. That's, for any of you who don't know, by the way, frag out is I mean, it's mainly just a training thing that you do, like when you're throwing the grenade, to let everybody know that you're throwing the grenade. I guess technically you could do it in a real life situation, but you wouldn't really want to indicate to the enemy that you're throwing a grenade, so I think it's a bad kind of scenario to do. But you would yell frag out when throwing like the practice hand grenade or even the real hand grenade when we're doing like the live fire with the hand grenades, let everybody know that you were throwing a hand grenade. But that's the term you'd use. But that would be a great little video intro to kind of start off your videos, starting off frag out, then start into whatever you're talking about. What are some schools a soldier can go after basic training? I've heard Pathfinder school, but can't find any info on it. Can any MOS go to these schools? Most of them, sometimes they have priorities for some people. You have like Airborne, Air Assault, Pathfinder, Sapper. Sapper usually goes priority to engineers though. You have, oh man, what else is there? Sniper school. That one usually goes priority to like infantry though, and special forces though. But other people can still do it usually. But there's a lot. There's quite a few. So there are some MOS, some schools that are more priority towards certain MOSs, and then if they have open slots after those, when it comes to a certain time period, they might allow other MOSs. But then there's other MOSs that are not MOS specific. Like Airborne, Air Assault is not MOS specific. Anybody can really do Airborne or Air Assault, and then a few other schools probably as well. But there's a lot of schools. How do you join the 101st Airborne? You don't really join the 101st Airborne. It's a unit, and when that unit is short on specific MOSs, then HRC tries to usually, which is like the command kind of area that fills slots, they start to fill those slots either with new soldiers or soldiers that have been at a certain duty location for a really long time. They need to kind of break up some of the monotony of being at one duty station for like a really long time, and they may send them to that unit. So you don't really get to join that unit. It more comes down to when that unit needs some slots filled, people will get thrown into those positions. Pretty stupid when it comes to questions, LOL, but here is a question. It's never a stupid question. How do soldiers rank up when they first join the Army? They're the lowest class. Someone serves, let's say, 8 years. I plan on probably eventually doing a video to break down a little bit better as far as how the promotion system kind of works for like lower enlisted, especially for like E1 through E4. But for the most part, E1 through E4 is pretty much automatic. As long as you don't get Article 15, meaning get in trouble getting reduced in rank and all this stuff, then it's a pretty much automatic time period as far as when you're going to get promoted. You can get promoted earlier based on doing a good job and everything. And in that video, I'll probably explain about that. But there's this, usually around, it depends on the MOS too. I mean, if you're just not really trying to really hard, then sometimes, you go through E1 to E4 in a couple of years or whatever. And then after that, depending on your MOS, then you can move up to sergeant and everything. Someone who's in for 8 years legitimately should at least at a minimum be an E5. But again, that sometimes still depends on the MOS, because like some people, I've seen it before in comments where they give me crap, right? I got out of the Army after 10 years as an E5. That is because the point system for my MOS was really high for me to try to get to E6. It's not a set standard across the board, especially like people who are 11 Bravos, right? You might hear crap from 11 Bravos, because their points are really super low for getting promoted. So it is very easy as an 11 Bravo to get promoted to E6 and beyond and all that stuff like that because of how low their points are for that promotion. 88 mics and certain other MOSs, and it fluctuates from year to year too. So it's not always to say that it's always the case. But the point system fluctuates based on the demand for individuals in that specific MOS for that specific rank. So if they already have a lot of people at, say, the rank of staff sergeant in that MOS, and they don't need a lot of people, then they put the points pretty high. And that's always what it was for me. So the points were 798 out of a possible 800. That doesn't give any wiggle room. That means I also need max my physical fitness test, max my awards, max my military education, and I also need an associate's degree on the civilian side. So I didn't have time to get an associate's degree, so I couldn't get 798 points to get promoted to staff sergeant. Even though I had already done the board, I had already done the schooling for staff sergeant, I just was missing the points, and I couldn't get those points without an associate's degree. So that wasn't going to happen. So I eventually got out of the Army, right? For other individuals, they don't need all of that because the points are really low. They may just need, to do okay on their PT test or on their ACFT now. They might need a little bit of military education, a few awards, and boom, they got enough points and they're good to go. They don't even need any civilian education. They only need maybe a couple classes on the military side. I had to pretty much max everything to be able to do so. But again, so that comes down to the MOS. The MOS really depends on how long it's going to take someone to be able to rank up, because it's not a set standard. But typically, someone at 8 years should hopefully at least be at E5 at that point, hopefully. But it depends on the MOS sometimes. Sometimes there are some MOSs that are... Can I volunteer for RASP during OSIT? Sometimes, yeah. You can usually talk to your drill sergeants and say that you're interested in RASP, and if they feel like you're not a douchebag, then maybe they might put you in for it, and if there's open slots, you could go off to RASP afterwards. But if you're someone who sucks in physical fitness, then they're probably not going to recommend you for that, and they're not going to probably put in. So it's going to come down to probably what kind of good physical shape you are. If you do your ACFT, since you're now doing the ACFT in basic training and AIT, if you do that initial ACFT and you tank it, you do horrible, they're probably not going to want to recommend you for that. But if you did really well on it and you did pretty good, then you might be having better possibility to be able to be sent off to RASP if they have some slots they can send you off to afterwards. So it depends. You need a valid passport to join the Army. You do not. No, not a requirement. Thanks, but what is with it? I heard it's 101st, not really airborne anymore. Just asking, but can anyone clarify? I'm not 100% sure on that. I think I've heard that maybe possibly too, but I don't know on that how that goes. Can you join the Army if you don't drive? Yeah, sure. There's some MOSs that require a driver's license, but not all MOSs require a driver's license. When you took vehicles into Iraq, did you drive them to your area of operation, or did you have them transported? The first deployment I did, we drove our own vehicles from Kuwait into Iraq. And then the second deployment, we just took over the vehicles of the unit we were replacing. So there was a specific unit that was already at the location of where we were going to. We flew into that location, and that unit was getting ready to leave. They were leaving behind their vehicles because it made more sense logistically, and it didn't cost any, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on having to send all those vehicles back to the United States via ships and everything like that. So they just leave their vehicles there. We take over their vehicles, and they went back to the United States and drew new vehicles and different vehicles and stuff back in the United States from another unit that was taken off to like Iraq and stuff, or Afghanistan or whatever. So that's how that worked. We'll skip down a little bit because I'm getting a little bit behind. Once you leave the Army, are you still getting paid on the 1st and 15th, right? Once you leave the Army, not if you're not in the Army anymore. So now if you retire out of the Army, then you just receive, I think your pay, the retirement paycheck just comes on the 1st of the month, every month. And yeah, if you didn't retire, then you don't receive a paycheck from the Army. But if you retired, you did 20 plus years, put in for retirement, and got retired out of the Army, then the 1st of the month is when you get retirement check. How long does it take for someone who is already out of high school to ship for basic training? A lot of variables fall into there as far as slots, like I was kind of talking about earlier, where it comes down to what locations have available slots to put someone in basic training. So it kind of just depends. There's no real set time frame. You can sometimes choose to ship early, and there's even a bonus involved with that if you have that availability to you. But if you ship within, I think, less than 60 days, you get a quick ship bonus, and you can possibly qualify for that. Chris, will you please make a video on how to make your bunk the military way? Could. How I could probably do that, because like my bed at the house here is a king size bed. It'd be kind of tough to do it with a king size bed. Plus, I don't even have the right kind of blankets. But maybe that's a good idea, Evie. I'll try to remember that, and maybe I'll have to do it. You have the specific corners you have to have, like these hospital corners, they kind of call it. Marines are considered the most disciplined branch in the military, but why are Marines the ones that get into trouble the most, like the drinking and driving incidents in Okinawa? I don't know if that's statistically correct. I have no idea as far as if they are the ones that get in the most trouble or whatever. I don't know. A lot of they're not with all cases. A lot of cases I've seen where people who are in the Marines or currently in the Marines or whatever, they're really kind of have a lot of pride for the Marines, which is fine, but sometimes it's in a really cocky attitude. Sometimes, they get in some trouble with people who are in other branches of the military because they feel like the Marines are the only ones important, or they're just super proud of the Marines, whatever the case is, and that kind of falls into the category. But that's not to say that there are not people in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force getting in trouble too, because that does happen. Statistically, I don't know if that's the Marines are the ones that get in trouble the most, or Army does, or Air Force or Navy or whatever. I don't know on that. How are most MOSs in the Army chosen? Are you chosen for it or something else? Also, what is the deal with MOSs in college for the Army? Thanks for answering. For MOSs, you choose the MOS. It's based on your ASVAB score. So the Army is the only one that really kind of gives you that option. Other branches kind of sort of do, but not in the same way the Army does. The Army, you can specifically choose to be a wheeled mechanic, let's say, for example. Air Force or something else, you might, if you've scored high enough, be able to choose mechanics, but maybe not specifically either wheeled mechanics or aircraft mechanics or anything like that. You just may be generally thrown into some job that has some kind of relation with mechanics in there. Be a generator mechanic, and you wanted to work on vehicles, but you're stuck doing generators. So the Army actually allows you to specifically choose the job that you want to do, as long as you qualify for that job. So you choose that at MEPS. You go through all that physical and everything like that. You've already taken the ASVAB at this point, and based on your physical and everything you do at MEPS and your ASVAB scores, they look at what MOSs are available based on, if they're not over strength and what you're eligible for, and you usually pick an MOS from there. And as far as college for the Army, I'm not sure specifically what is the deal with MOSs in college for the Army. I'm not too sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about taking college classes while you're in the Army, that really varies as far as your MOS if you really have time to do so. Some people are able to do online classes, but even that sometimes can be very challenging because you still have deadlines to meet. And if you're really busy with your MOS and your job on active duty especially, then it can be hard. If you're in Reserves and National Guard, you probably have a lot more time for college. And a lot of people do that so they can go to college as they go to the Reserves and National Guard. But active duty, it depends on if you are in an MOS that is super busy, then you might not have the time to be able to do so. Is it true military ID works like a passport? Kind of. You still have to kind of be on orders. So let's say if you're stationed in the United States and you just want to go on a trip to Germany, right? You cannot just simply use your military ID to get you into Germany if you're not on orders to go to Germany. So you are still going to need a passport to go to Germany to visit. Now, if you are stationed in the United States and then you get reassigned, you are going to be moving to Germany for your new assignment, and you're traveling there to get there, yes, then your ID works as a passport, but it has to also go along with some orders. You usually have to have your orders with you to show that you are there on official government business, and then your ID card works as a passport. But in general, if you're just going on vacation to another country, your ID will not work as a passport. A while back used to work that way, but not anymore. My heater just turned on. I forgot to lower my thermostat so it wouldn't kick on during the live stream and cause some background noise. Let me lower my thermostat real quick. That way, we don't have this little hissing noise that you probably can hear in the background. Maybe, if my app wants to load. See, I'll answer some questions while we're trying to get this app to dang thing to load. Got a super chat. Super chat from Holly Hand Grenade, $2. Thank you, Holly Hand Grenade. You're awesome. One for the real OG Sergeant Chaos. Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate your donation very much. You are awesome and you rule. Thank you. What do you think about the National Guard infantry? I don't really have an opinion. They're cool. I'm cool with whatever. I don't have any beef with anyone, I guess. I guess I'm not going to get my thermostat lowered. Not wanting to access app properly, so I can do it from a different app. I'll try it this way. Do it through my security app. Security app should let me lower the thermostat. Okay. When you're at your first duty station, what can you do PCS to a different duty station? You're gonna have to be there for a little bit. Like if you immediately get to your duty station and that's not where you want to be and you want to go somewhere else, you're gonna have to wait at least a little bit. But you can contact your branch manager is one way of being able to do so, and calling that person up and asking if you can get assigned to this location if it's available. That still is not a guaranteed thing. The only really way to guarantee to go to a different location, and that's still even not guaranteed either, but re-enlisting for it. Say you do a 4-year contract, 3 years comes around because after you have 1 year left on your Army contract, you're eligible for re-enlistment, and you can re-enlist to go somewhere else. But again, that still comes down to if the slots are available or not. So those are a couple ways you can try to go to somewhere else, but you won't be able to do it like immediately as soon as getting there. You're gonna have to probably still wait a couple years before they're possibly even going to consider your request to move to another duty assignment. No, how's it going? What's happening? Brian says, does the National Guard infantry get the same training as regular Army? Yeah, for the most part. I mean, not as often, but like you still go through the same OSIT. So you still have to go through the same initial training, yes. During training, they have a little bit more limited on time. They don't have as much time as like active duty does, so they probably don't get as much training. Chris, what's the option for hometown recruiting for? Hometown recruiting is basically a little bit of extra time back home, and you kind of shadow your recruiters in your hometown, helping them try to recruit people. But then at the same time, for that week or 2 weeks that you get for hometown recruiting, you get to stay in your hometown. So you get to still stay visiting family and everything like that. Depending on your recruiter station, it depends on how much recruiting time you have to kind of work with them and do stuff. Mine was somewhere else, so I did very little, but I've known some individuals that got stuck basically having to do PT with their recruiters, going there from 9 o'clock all the way to 5 o'clock at night, and really working them. So it really just varies based on your recruiters and all that stuff as far as how busy you really are with that recruiter station during hometown recruiting. But that's basically what. Can you get 2 MOSs? Not really. They have an option sometimes for you to have a secondary MOS, and that really has to be something that's relative to your primary MOS. You have your primary MOS, and then sometimes later in your Army career you can get a secondary MOS, but you can't do something like, say, your primary MOS is 11 Bravo, you can't have like your secondary MOS to be like a veterinarian or something like that, right? It has to be something usually relative to it, something that will enhance your ability to perform in your primary MOS. But that depends on a lot of other things too. But that's usually how it kind of works with having second MOS. It's your secondary MOS. You still have to do the job of your primary one, but you can learn an additional MOS if it directly relates to your primary, sometimes. What's up? I've missed the last 2 weeks for deer session, for deer season. Well, hopefully deer season went awesome. I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, I got a giveaway going on Instagram, so make sure you follow me on Instagram. Look for the little giveaway post and post a comment in there. Read the description of it. Maybe you can win a mystery box of Army stuff. Just call me Specialist Grenade. That works. After AIT or 1 unit station training, before your first duty station, how and when you get your first set of time off, where you get your fares in order, like example, getting your car. That usually takes place between graduating from AIT or OSIT and before you go to your first duty station. So typically, in most cases, how it works, you graduate from AIT or from OSIT, and then you're going to go on vacation for like 2 weeks or something like that. And during that time frame is when you're getting time to get your things in order, to arrange for transportation, either pick up your items, or if you choose to, you're gonna do it yourself, then you have that time frame to be able to transport all of your stuff to your next duty assignment in there. There are some rare cases that I've heard where some people had to wait until they got to their unit before they were allowed to do so. That just varies, but most cases it happens after AIT or OSIT before you even go to your first duty station and everything ready. So you arrange for the transportation or you're doing it yourself. So let's say in the case that you arrange for transportation, the Army contracts some movers to pick up your stuff. You have a kind of a limit as far as how much stuff you can bring. If you're single, it's a lot less, but if you're married, you have more items you can bring because you have a spouse and possibly kids. You have more items you're allowed to bring. Single soldiers have a smaller amount of items they're allowed to bring, a smaller weight amount. But the transportation people pick that stuff up, they take it to your duty assignment. When you get out of reception, because you spend about a week in reception at that first duty assignment, getting processed into the system, and then go into your first unit. Once you arrive at your first unit and you've been, say, put in the barracks or into, you've got a house off post or you got an on post housing, whatever the deal is, call them up, tell them, hey, I'm here, this is the location of where I'm at, and they set up an appointment for them to come deliver your stuff. You usually tell your chain of command, hey, I have a gypso appointment on Wednesday at this time, you know, and then they just tell you, okay, just stand by and wait for them. So you get to stay home, stay in your barracks, wait for transportation people to show up and unload all of your stuff into your barracks room, and then you set it all up or whatever. That's usually how it kind of somewhat works. Chris, can a soldier enlist or officer get an Article 15 or a discharge for losing their military ID card? No, you're probably just going to get a counseling statement for that. If you lose your ID card, usually you have to get a counseling statement to get a new ID card. Usually that's the policy, that you have to have shown that someone has counseled you on, you know, how it's important not to lose this thing or whatever and all that stuff. But that's not usually going to be as severe as an Article 15 for losing your ID card. But they're going to have a talking with you after something in writing as far as some remedial action, something that maybe you have to do now or whatever to make sure you don't lose it again or whatever. And then you have to go to the DEER's office, which is where you get ID cards, and get a new ID card. And sometimes that requires a counseling statement with it or something official from your unit saying that, yes, you've been counseled for losing this ID card. Speaking of which, how do I get a rank insignia on here? So the rank insignias are the members. So if you're watching this on desktop, down below there should be somewhere like a join button. If you're watching this on mobile device, then down in the description there's a link to where you can join and become a part of the Chaos Army membership thing. And the longer you are a member, the higher in rank it starts to move up. You start off as a private, after you've been a member for I think 2 months, 3 months, then you move up to private first class, and so on and so forth, and goes all the way up. And then the very last one is the Army logo. I think you were a member for like 2 years and more, something like that. So that's how that kind of works. If anybody else is interested in that, in a little rank next to their name in the chat, also appears in comments on videos too. Then you have to join and be a member on the channel. It also comes with other perks too, like early intel as far as finding out what videos I'm gonna be doing soon. Sometimes you get early access to some videos, so you might get to watch a new video before everybody else does if you're a member, and different perks are kind of involved with that. There's 3 different tiers check that out. That's how you get a little rank next to your name. But all tiers get that little rank next to your name. Just the different tiers have different perks, I guess, along with it. How hard is the Ranger School in Special Forces? It's not, well, the Ranger School isn't in Special Forces, but if you're talking about compared to Special Forces would be the harder one. Rangers isn't easy, but it's not as hard as Special Forces training. What could you suggest? More 11 X-Ray Infantry, 13 Fox Joint Fire Support Specialist, 14 Papa Air and Missile Defense crew member. So if I was suggesting one of those, I mean, a lot of that comes down to what you're more interested in. I would say 11 X-Ray doesn't translate as well into the civilian world as some of these other ones would do. I mean, even 13 Fox probably doesn't even transfer very well into the civilian world. 14 Papa would probably transfer better into the civilian side because of the machinery and the equipment you're working with, that you could probably still work with similar-ish type of equipment on the civilian side if you're looking to. But if you're planning on being in the Army lifetime for 20 plus years and retiring, then just do whatever one makes you happy. But I would even still say that even if, you only plan on doing 4 years or whatever, but just know that probably 11 X-Ray is probably gonna have the least kind of transferable skills into the civilian world. I mean, sure, there's a lot of times where people just simply see that you have military experience and they like that regardless of what it was you did in the Army. That still helps, and I know that case from personal experience because I have a good friend who was in 11 Bravo. He works in the same kind of job that I do, and so it didn't matter that he was in 11 Bravo, it mattered that he had military experience. So that is still kind of a good thing, even if it doesn't directly translate into something on the civilian side. Is it easy or difficult to go from Army to the Air Force? It depends. I know for a while, I don't know if it's still the case, but Air Force was not taking prior service people. So if you served in the Air Force, or you served in the Army or the Marines or whatever, and then you wanted to go to the Air Force, they weren't taking you because they didn't want to take any prior service individuals from another branch. So that changes from time to time. I don't know if it's currently the case, but that factors in there sometimes too. Do you get special pay if you're paying child support? No. If you have children and you have at least partial custody, you can receive BAH and BAS. So that can be kind of used to help with the child support, but specifically for child support, no. But if you don't have any custody of these children, then you don't get nothing extra. So you're kind of in a crappy situation there. But if you have at least some kind of partial custody, visitation or whatever kind of a thing, then you could possibly be in a situation where you might receive BAH and BS, but they're pretty strict on that nowadays, where they might not even let you come in the Army unless you're willing to give up full custody, give up any of your custody rights to the other parent, because they don't want you to be able to use that as an excuse to get out of the Army early because you need to take care of your child and you can't do so or whatever. So that kind of comes into a lot of other things. But generally, no, you don't get any kind of special pay for child support. In AIT, if I score higher or are older, you usually get the base you want, or is it random? No, it's pretty much based on who needs what MOSs. You don't really get to pick that. You can put it on a dream sheet, and you might get, if you picked a duty station on your dream sheet, say you wanted, let's say, Fort Carson, right? My last duty station, where I currently work at now. Pick Fort Carson as your number one, and there happens to be slots open for your MOS at that location, they might put you in that location. That can sometimes work out, but if there isn't slots available for that location, they're just going to throw you somewhere else that they do need that MOS. Oh man, I got to start as a private again. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if that's something you want to do and you want to join as a member, it starts off with private. But hey, you rank up pretty fast. I mean, like you got like Doug the Eliminator, we got Chrisman Vega and everything. They're already specialists. That's, I think, after like 6 months or something like that. So I mean, you definitely can't become a specialist usually in the Army that quick. So yeah, it does start off that way, and I don't have any way to like rank you up faster or anything like that. It's all based on YouTube's system and what icons I have set for it. So it takes the set amount of time before you kind of rank up on that little thing. But yeah, if you want to join and get the little rank next to your name, that's how you do it. National Guard to active duty, is it hard? It can be, because I believe your National Guard unit has to be willing to give you up to let you go active duty. If you're re-enlisting for it, it's pretty much a guaranteed thing. They have to let you go. But if you're just trying, say somewhere's in the middle of your contract, trying to go from National Guard or even reserve to active duty, then your unit has to be willing to let you go. It might be easier to go AGR, which is active guard reserve, or active, which is kind of what your unit. So like, even though you're reserve or you're National Guard, you're only limited. You're like part-time, right, in the Army. And there is still somebody at your unit that is full-time that has to schedule and do all the coordination for your part-time training that you come to do. Those people are AGR. They're active reserves or active guard. And those people have a little bit easier. It's not the same as an active duty unit, but they are still full-time. So sometimes that might be the better course to go rather than going full-on active duty. You might want to go AGR. Look into that option if you were in some kind of situation like that. Texas is the greatest country in the world. No, I've only been to Texas a couple times. And okay. Chris, can I get my Chaos Army rank upgraded retroactively, since I joined right around the 100th, the 1,000th subscriber, I think it says, but wasn't aware that the rank falls. I can't. No, I don't have any kind of say in that. I don't have any ability to upgrade your rank or anything like that if you choose to become a member or whatever. But even back then, I only think I got the whole membership thing was activated for my channel. I think it was around like 40,000 subscribers, 35,000 subscribers. I forget what it was, but it was only this year that I got that active to it. That wasn't available during the early times of the channel. Only more of a recent thing this year. What is your civilian job, Chris? I teach soldiers how to use a navigation system that is in Army vehicles as well as inside command posts. There's a system called JCR, and there's a newer version of it called JBCP, but is basically software and a system that is installed in the vehicles and in the command posts. We're tracking units on the battlefield to see where vehicles are at, see where soldiers are at, post reports if there's a explosive device in the road, if they've spotted enemy. They can use that system to report, and I teach soldiers how to use that system and also how to troubleshoot that system and a few other things with that system. So I teach soldiers how to use that navigation and tracking system in the Army. After serving 4 years in the military, can you join the National Guard right away or wait 8 years? No, you can go immediately. So if you wanted to, say, do 4 years active duty and then do whatever amount of years in reserve or National Guard, yes, you can choose to do so. In fact, when you go to get out of the Army, you have to do, it's like part of your checklist of things you have to do is go talk to the retention NCO or the enlistment individual on base that tries to convince you to go to the reserves or the National Guard or something like that. And they make you think about it for a day, which, even though like I was 100% sure I didn't want to go to the reserves and National Guard, they still made me come back the next day before he was going to be willing to sign me off on my paperwork to say that I talked to him and stuff like that. That way I had at least a day to think about it. But yes. Hey Chris, in your opinion, is it hard to have a hobby side business while serving active duty? YouTube, cleaning business, reselling items? It depends on the MOS. Sometimes I would say YouTube, maybe not necessarily. That would probably be a more easier one. A cleaning business and reselling items might take a little bit more time and a little bit more work to be able to do, so that'd be a little bit harder. But there are individuals that I see that are on active duty that do a YouTube channel, whether it be Army related stuff or non-Army related stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. Just as far as how much effort it's going to take kind of depends on the job you're doing or whatever. We are almost at 1 hour, so the live stream is getting close to the end of it. If you have not yet hit that thumbs up, that like button, make sure you do so. See, currently there's like 48 of you in here, so there's obviously some of you that have not hit that like button. I greatly appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up for me. If you're enjoying yourself and having a good time here in the live stream, as we have maybe roughly about 5-ish minutes left of the live stream. My best friend and I want to become a 12 mic. What are your thoughts about this MOS? What's a 12 mic? I don't remember what off the top of my head what a 12 mic is. I'd have to look that up. Does the Army still have the buddy program for boot camp? They do. Yeah, you can. So the buddy program, for those of you not aware, usually means that you and a friend can enlist together. Usually one of you gets promoted, which kind of sucks for the other person, but whoever the initial person was to initiate the whole thing is usually the one that gets the promotion to E2, unless you guys have college or something like that. But that allows you guys to go into the same MOS together, go to basic training, go to AIT together, and then go to your first duty station together. You may not be in the same unit, that's not a guarantee, but you will probably be stationed at the same duty assignment, and then there's no kind of system involved to keep you together past that part or whatever. It's kind of that initial point. You should do basic training, AIT, or even OSID or whatever, and then to your first duty station together. That's the buddy program. So if you have a good friend and you both want the same MOS and you want to hang out together and be stationed together, ask your recruiter about the buddy program, and you can potentially get to come in into the buddy program. So all that kind of fun stuff. We've got a new member. Thank you for joining the Chaos Army. Well, I mean, subscribing is the Chaos Army, but the Chaos Army membership. Thank you for joining. What is it? Was it Japolin or JPPOLIN? I have no idea how you actually pronounce that. But thank you. Thank you for joining the Chaos Army memberships. Now you get a cool little rank icon next to your name and maybe some perks along with it. Find out about early intel about upcoming videos if other people want to do that. Hit that join button. Is it against regulation to speak other than English in uniform? No. If you're doing official work, you're supposed to speak English so that everybody can understand what it is you're saying and can, know what's going on. But if you're just talking amongst friends, let's say you speak fluent Spanish, right? And you have another friend who also speaks fluent Spanish and you're just bullshitting or whatever, and you're talking Spanish, no, they usually don't care. But if you're doing work and you're getting things done, like you're in the office, you're in the motor pool, you're working, and you're telling someone, that what you have to do or relaying some information in Spanish, they usually kind of try to go against that. They don't really want you doing that for official business type of things. Let's say my dad is an 07 in the Army. Can my dad pull strings to get me overseas base, or can you not do that? Maybe. I guess it depends on who he knows. Not a set thing, but maybe. What is the new final stage of basic training? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Final stage? I mean, you still have the same kind of stuff, but instead of the PT test being done with the Army Combat Fitness test is now a requirement for basic training to be able to pass that. You have a second job while on active duty? Yes, but you have to get permission to do so usually. Most units usually require you to go through a counseling to talk to your leadership and tell them, hey, that I plan on doing this on the side, whether it be like a Uber driver, a Lyft driver, that's a really common one, or you're just gonna have a side job on the weekends being a bouncer is another common one I've seen people do. You still are supposed to go through the proper channels of telling your leadership that this is what you want to do, and then they have to make sure that you're aware that your Army job comes first. So if you have training coming up, you have duty coming up or something along those lines, and you're like, I can't do that because I have to work at my second job. No, that's not gonna fly. So that's kind of where that comes into play. But yes, typically you can have a second job. You just have to let your leadership know, because your Army job comes first. You're not gonna be able to get out of any kind of training because your second job needs you for a shift or something like that. Can my buddy be a female for like the buddy program? Yeah, I don't think it matters the gender of the individual. I don't believe that matters. What's up, Chris? I'm at Fort Campbell now. Air Assault, awesome. Was a Soldier King. Have fun at Air Assault school. From what I understand, it's a lot of math. I almost thought about doing Air Assault school when I was in the Army, but I didn't end up going through it or whatever. So if you're going through Air Assault school right now, good luck with that. I remember like the biggest thing is like everybody always thought that like, oh man, Air Assault school, that's all you do is rappel out of helicopters and do all this awesome rappelling. And it's not. I mean, that's part of what you do, but a lot of it also involves math and doing like loading for being able to rig up equipment and cargo and all sorts of stuff for it to be picked up by a helicopter, be airlifted out of there and all that kind of stuff. So it involves like a lot of math kind of involved with it in there. So have fun. When you go to airborne in the infantry, do you get moved to an airborne unit or do you just go back get the tab? So if you're already in a whatever unit, let's say you're in a unit that's not an airborne unit, and while you're already in, you go to airborne school, you're just gonna, when you come back from airborne school, you're just gonna go back to that same unit. There's potential that if you PCS to another unit or re-enlist for a unit, that next unit could end up being an airborne unit, but no guarantees really. The only time you can really get guaranteed an airborne unit is doing like special forces, being a rigger, certain things like that, where those are pretty much guaranteed you're going to be an airborne unit because you need to be an airborne unit for those MOSs. But a very high chance, usually if you did airborne school immediately after basic training or OSIT, then that's also a high chance of you going into an airborne unit. But if you're already in the Army, it's a little bit tougher to kind of get just put into an airborne unit. It's my first and middle initial, my last name, so JP Poli. Oh, well, thanks. So I'll just try to remember JP. So I'll try to remember. Hopefully, I'm bad with names though, and I'll just make it simple. I'll refer to you as JP. So thank you, JP, for becoming an awesome member and being a part of this fun journey. Chris, will the Army take action against a soldier who marries a spouse from another country we are at war with? I don't know what they would do in that kind of a situation. There's gonna be a lot of background stuff going into it. I don't know if they would necessarily get in trouble, but there probably could be some issues with that, I would think. Can I get a VA rating for getting injured in the gym while in active duty? Maybe. There's a lot of factors that kind of go along with that. If that injury was something because you were an idiot and you just tripped and fell, maybe not. But if it depends on some factors on what they kind of evaluate from that. But possibly, if say like you were working out in the gym because it was like a dedicated time of being in the Army and you were working out and you got injured, maybe. I don't know. There's probably a lot of factors that kind of go along with that. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to be closing out the live stream here. I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to see if I can't find a question that maybe I passed up. It's a good question. Answer that question. And then I'll come back to the bottom of the chat and I'll see if maybe there's like one or two new questions to finish out the live stream with, and then we'll close out the live stream. So let me scroll backwards in the chat. Let me see if I can find a good question that maybe I passed up because I was skipping around a little bit. Maybe answer that question. Give me a minute to find something that maybe I didn't answer. We'll do this one. Can you go to West Point if you're already in the Army? Probably the way you probably could do that is if you did the Green to Gold program and you got accepted to West Point, because it's really hard to get into West Point. That's kind of like trying to get into like Harvard, let's say, for an example, right? To get into West Point, you have to be, had really good, grades in high school and everything like that. You have to have been recommended. You have to get a recommendation letter or something like along those lines from like a senator or a political figure, something along those lines for someone to recommend you to West Point, and then that's how they put that into consideration to decide whether you got approved or accepted into West Point. So that would essentially be to become an officer, and it's like their elite college for officers in the United States Army. That is also when you watch like the Army play the Navy or whatever, those individuals that are on that football team are West Point individuals. So to probably do that would probably be very difficult because, for one, like the Green to Gold program isn't maybe necessarily too difficult. It just has some requirements of that, but you could put in for the Green to Gold program, and if you wanted your college to be West Point, I feel like that would be really, really tough to kind of be able to do. So yeah, that'd be tough. But probably possible. Maybe that's possible. All right, so let's see what else. Is there like a monthly fee for the Chaos Army? For the membership thing, it's anywhere from $1.99 a month was the lowest tier, which gets you just the little icon next to your name. But it also gives you, I think, that one has the early intel, so you can find out about future videos that are coming up that are planned. And then there's a $4.99 tier and then a $9.99 tier So each of them have different kind of perks along with them in the different tiers. But at the very minimum, that's $1.99. Or if you just want, all you care about is you don't care about the perks, and all you want to do is just spend as little as possible and get a cool little rank icon next to your name. $1.99 a month. You see that, and then each additional month that you continue that membership, you move up in rank. But the next tier is like the first one is the little private rank, but I think the next one doesn't go up until after 2 or 3 months or something like that. And then it kind of spaces out a little bit more before you can rank up again. What was your biggest physical challenge at boot camp? Maybe the obstacle course. The obstacle course is a little bit challenging. You got pretty tired, especially because you're low crawling for such a long distance. When I did it, I remember you got a pretty good distance of low crawl, and that got pretty exhausting after a little bit. Well, I mean, that one was pretty tiring, but so was, you also do this like live fire kind of exercise thing where they're shooting live rounds over your head. They're really high above your head, so there's pretty much no chance practically of them hitting you with any of these rounds. But you have to low crawl a pretty good long distance while they're doing that, under barbed wire, through some sand and everything like that. That was pretty exhausting. So maybe one of those two, either obstacle course or that live fire part where you have to low crawl while they're shooting live rounds over your head. One of those two would probably be the hardest. Is Sears School only for Spec Ops? The priority goes to them, but I don't believe so. I believe there are some circumstances where you can possibly get into that, but probably a little bit limited. Zang, how's it going? Hey, Chris. Hello from Orlando, Florida. I'm on vacation, but still here to watch your videos. Well, awesome. Thank you. But we're at the pretty much end of this live stream, so you kind of came in at the last tail end of it, answering a couple questions before we kind of close this out. Hey Chris, how likely is it for a 13 Bravo to be stationed in South Korea? As long as there's MOSs or units that need that MOS in that country, it's equal for everybody, pretty much. The only time it might limit it down is if there are not units in Korea or something like that where they don't need that MOS, so it may kind of vary based on. We'll do maybe like 1 or 2 more questions. We'll have to kind of end this. Which is worse, MRE or hot seas? I have never had hot seas or sea rations, so I could not give a good comparison probably with that. But from people that I have talked to that have had both, sounds like sea rations are probably the worst when you're comparing those two together. Here is good stuff. Go if you get a chance. It sounds like a pretty cool school. What is the longest you can wait for a medical waiver to join the army? I have no idea on waivers. Didn't really. Oh, I guess this will be the last question. We'll just do this last one. Any tips? I'm an AIT for AIT 5 weeks. Great AIT for AIT now. 91 Fox AIT. Just try to keep a positive attitude. AIT still kind of sucks as far as your personal life and everything else. You have a little bit, freedom. Obviously, you may have realized you have more freedom than you had in basic training, but AIT is still really restricted compared to when you go to your first unit. So keep a positive attitude. Know that lifestyle that you have right now in AIT is not what it's like in your main unit. You probably still have, obviously, if you're on the internet, you have some pretty good, a little bit of leeway here and there probably to be able to use the internet and be able to do some stuff. That's cool, right? But you probably can't just roam free whenever you want and all that kind of stuff. And you may or may not be allowed to leave every weekend. That varies, based on your AIT. Usually longer AITs sometimes give you a little bit more relaxed, where shorter ones are a little bit more strict on allowing you to leave on the weekends. But just know that when you're done with that training, it's better and you're treated better for the most part at your unit, unless you get a really crappy unit, and that happens sometimes too, and that sucks. But just remain positive. It gets better and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, awesome. Subscribe to the channel if you few days ago. Keep up the awesome, amazing work. Well, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that as well. What is shit on a shingle? It's a food. I forget what's all incorporated into the food. What is the longest you ran in the Army, Chris? I was just hip firing with a couple quick last questions before I close it out. Because it's fun hanging out with you guys, but I still have other stuff I need to do. I need to go grocery shop to do for the week. But longest I ran, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 miles, something like that. I remember doing some runs like that. I've done road marches for long ways. But as far as a run, I want to say maybe like a 6 or 7 miler, something like that, of running with my unit. Something like that. So, all right, guys. So that is going to close out this live stream. I'll be back next weekend for another live stream. We'll have the gaming live stream on Saturday. So if you want to hang out while I play Call of Duty some more, then you can hang out during that time frame on Saturday to watch that one. And then around 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, or at 7:30 Mountain Standard Time on Sunday, Chaos Live, and that is when I'm going to announce the winner of the giveaway. If you're not aware of the giveaway, follow me on Instagram at ThatChrisChaos, or do a search on Instagram for Christopher Chaos. You'll see a post on there for the giveaway. Leave a comment in there that enters you into the contest to possibly win a little mystery box of Army-related items inside there and all that kind of fun stuff. Surprise, surprise! I actually have MOS Monday for you guys tomorrow. So tomorrow, those of you that are a fan of MOS Monday, new episode tomorrow. I have a video for Wednesday, maybe a video for Friday. We'll see how things kind of go out, and we'll kind of do it from that way. So thank you guys so much for coming to hang out here for Chaos Live for the live stream. New video tomorrow, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Instagram. Awesome. You guys rock. If you didn't already, hit that like button before you leave. Make sure to show some love by hitting that like. All right. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.